Hi everyone, Elliot Jacobson here for Advanced Advantage Play, and today I want to talk about a topic that I just have not talked about before as far as I can tell, and it's a very important topic, and this topic is ace tracking or ace sequencing, especially important to the game of Blackjack. And the reason I'm going to talk about this is I got a great email. So I want to read the email and that will tell you exactly where we're going to go today. Hello, Dr. Jacobson. In one of your AP Heat articles, you discuss something about how a strip doesn't affect the cards as much if it is done before or after the riffle, I believe. As I said, I cannot find it now after some time of initially reading what you wrote. Could you please summarize what you said about the relationship between strips and riffles and why what is true is indeed true? I love the grammar on that one. Why what is true is indeed true. So what we are interested in is being able to track aces through a shuffle and in gain protection against that. So when I get around to answering this question, it's going to be sort of a long way, but we have to understand what ace sequencing is all about. So to do that, I'm going to just take you through a situation and actually explain what riffles do when we perform them as part of the shuffling procedure. So let's just get right into that topic. So if we want to track an ace through a shuffle, the first thing to do is to notice an ace coming out one round, and then we want to see the two cards that go on top of that ace. So in this example, we might have had the ace of diamonds be dealt, and we see the seven of clubs and jack of clubs are the two cards that go on top of that ace when it's put into the discard tray. Now, what's going to happen is that we're going to do some riffles on this situation, and those riffles are going to impact the card order slightly. And if you just think about it, it's going to be kind of obvious to you that this is exactly what happens. So here we go. So after our first riffle, the point is that a single card is put between the ace and the seven, and a single card is put between the seven and the jack, right? Now, riffles always, a perfect riffle always inserts one card between every gap. So now after the first riffle, we'll have a gap between the ace and five and seven and queen and jack. So because of that, when we riffle the second time, we're going to get three cards in total between the ace and seven. And when I riffle the second time, we're going to get three cards between the seven and the jack. So after two riffles, this is roughly what the sequence of cards is going to look like. And then when we are playing the game and we see a jack of clubs come out and the seven of clubs should come out about three cards later. And if we've done everything correctly and there is no other protection in the shuffle, it's just a two pass, say riffle and restack shuffle, which is a very quick shuffle, then the ace should come out three cards after that. So this idea of being able to predict when an ace that is going to come out is going to allow us to hopefully alter the way we play. Maybe we'll be playing with a teammate. Maybe we'll be violating basic strategy on a very small bet so that we can guarantee that we will get that ace as either the first or the second card dealt to us on the next round. So if you have an ace in your hand, that's a 50% edge over the house. So that's a pretty huge edge, right? So this is definitely something that has been used. I often tell this story when I have given presentations of a time I was asked to come to a casino just as a general consultant. There was no special topic. And in the middle of my stay there, I was told that there were these two players sitting at a table, high limit players. And what the way that they played is that they were friends. They were actually professional bridge players. One of them would play a sort of smallish wager every single hand. The other one would play with his chips. He had chips in front of him. He would sit there just sort of playing with the chips, moving them around. Once in a while he might make a bet, but for the most part he was just sort of nervously playing with his chips. And because they are high rollers, they just let them have a table to themselves. And they did this for day after day after day. And they ended up doing this for a couple months. And they were beating the casino. I forget whether it was $500,000 or $700,000. They were ahead of the casino. And I was actually talking to the CEO, right? Up in the top floor executive suite. And he wanted to know, well, can you figure out what these guys are doing? How are they beating us? And I said, well, show me your shuffle procedure. Show me your shuffle. And he showed the shuffle, and it was a 2-pass, riffle, and restack. In other words, you could easily track the aces through the shuffle. So one guy was going to be the big bettor, right? And the other guy, funneling his chips, was actually using the chips to keep track of information about where those aces were and what the key cards were in order to track them. And I said to them, all you need to do is put a strip into the shuffle. If you put a strip into the shuffle, these guys will go away. And when I explained that to the CEO, he looked at me as like, that can't be it. There must be something else. I said, no, that is it. That's all you need to do. These guys will leave if you put a strip into the shuffle. And sure enough, he put a strip into the shuffle, and they were gone the next day, right? These folks apparently had been doing this up and down the East Coast of the U.S. at a number of casinos. They'd use this ace tracking. So it's a very powerful method. So let me just remind you what a strip is. And I know this is going to look funny because I don't have two cameras. I don't have a top-down view to show you. But a strip, roughly speaking, is where you take some cards off the top. You put them down on the table. You then take some more cards off the top and some more cards off, right? And you do that until you have gone through the entire deck. So essentially what you're doing is you are breaking a small group up, and whatever these two cards are, you are going to be reversing the relationship to each other, right? You are reversing the relationship, and you do that until all of the cards, and that's a big mess on my desk here, you do that until you've gone through all the cards, and that's a strip. A strip is this idea of taking blocks of cards and putting them down on the table one at a time. Now, how does that strip work if we know we have that sequence in there, the ace, the 6, and the 10? Well, if that strip happens to fall between the 10 and the 6, or the 6 and the ace, then I have separated the ace from its key cards, right? So the key point of the strip is that as you are stripping, you are reversing where that key card is in relation to the card you want to track. So there's the ace, right? And there's the key card. And here I'm separating them by virtue of the strip. Now the problem is that if you have not already riffled, then it is very unlikely that your strip procedure is going to just by chance break between these two cards or these two cards. Now suppose we have riffled twice at the start of our shuffle procedure before we strip. Well, then we're going to have roughly what is an extra 3 cards in here, right? And we're going to have another 3 cards inserted in this location. Now what does it take to separate the ace from the key cards? Now when you strip, there are all these locations where your strip might happen that are going to separate the ace from a key card, right? You have a much larger chance of actually breaking up the information that allows you to associate key card to ace. So you riffle first to put in a lot of extra possibilities so that when you strip, the ace will go away from the key card. And that is the key to the game protection here, right? If you start with the strip, you are very unlikely to separate that ace from its key cards. If you riffle twice and then strip, then the ace will be separated from its key cards, more often than not. And enough so that somebody who is ace sequencing is going to decide not to play the game. So what you want to do then at the very end is one more riffle, right? You want to do one more riffle because you don't want to end with a strip, because lots of cards may be visible during the strip. You know, you may be sloppy. Someone may be able to see something during that strip. So always follow up the strip by another riffle. So probably a good idea is something like riffle, riffle, strip, and then turn, right? Do a box. So you lift up half and you rotate it the other way in case of edge sorting. So riffle, riffle, strip, turn, riffle, and then cut, right? And you do all of those steps for a reason. You will have a safely shuffled deck and you will not be able to track it. And I think this answers the question that was originally asked. Now, I just want to give you guys a quick quiz. So here is the quiz. So your quiz question is, what is that card right there with the 3 question marks? All right. So you can freeze frame this. I'll give you a second to do that, and then I will reveal and explain. All right, go. Okay, you are back, and let me just show it to you. Let's figure it out together. What we notice going from bottom to top, let's first look at the, for example, the spades. The lower right's the 2 of spades, then we see the 3 of spades, then the 4 of spades and the 5 of spades. So we're going from the lower right-hand corner to the top left-hand corner. And we can see that we have an increasing sequence of spades. Now, how about clubs? We see 4 of clubs, and then to the left is the 5 of clubs, and then on the next row above, the 6 of clubs and 7 of clubs and 8 of clubs. What about diamonds? 2 of diamonds, 3 of diamonds, 4 of diamonds. Then we see Jack of diamonds, Queen of diamonds, King of diamonds, Ace of diamonds, right? So we see all of these sequences. This is sequencing. We are sequencing. We are following cards through a shuffle procedure. So when you do that, we can see we have the 10 of hearts, Jack of hearts, blank, and King of hearts. So you know what that card is now. What does it have to be? It has to be the Queen of hearts, right? So there we are. There it is, the Queen of hearts. Now, one last thing for you before we go. There was actually a book written about this topic years and years ago, and this book was widely discredited, but I think it's still worth getting if this method is of interest to you, because it lays out at least some of the foundations of what this is all about. And here is that book. So I often will refer to this. It's one of the few books that's ever been written on advantage play that is not about ordinary blackjack card counting. It's called Blackjack Ace Prediction, the Art of Advanced Location Strategies for the Casino Game of 21. So I can't really recommend the book as it's going to be a great life changer for you, but it is certainly a book that is on a topic that is an important one to understand for advantage players and for casino surveillance security. All right, everyone, that's everything I wanted to say about this topic. Hopefully that was a bit enlightening for you. And with that said, I will see you later. Bye.